So, Chris, as we went to break, one of the pieces that you had left is about the 3.8% Medicare sales tax. Is that affecting real estate? How it is? And you made it really clear last week because you were getting some emails and questions about it. So let's start this segment off with that, and you and Mike Ranieri, along with Tim, can visit about that.
Well, yeah, and I do, and let's have Mike talk about this a little bit, because I was just telling them at the break. I mean, I have received email after email after email from people calling me saying, "Oh my goodness, this is gonna, my real estate transaction when I sell my house is gonna, add 3.8% to the sales of my home, which, what am I gonna be paying now? 10.8% when I close my house?" And so the misconception out there is I'll let Mike touch on it a little bit. What truly is it, Mike? What's the 3.8% tax?
It's not going to affect, first of all, the large population base that we have in the greater Treasure Valley area. When you look at the buying population and who it will affect, is essentially those wage earners above $250,000 a year. When you look at that and our total population base, that represents in the Treasure Valley less than 1% of the population base. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about things like that, it is, as Tim referenced it before we went to the break, it's something that isn't going to be a factor for us.
But on top of that, so you take that 1%, but then you have to add in the fact what the tax is. The tax is on the gain.
Correct.
Right. So if you're an individual, it's $250. If it's a joint tax filers, it's $500. But then you add that number in there too, and that's got to be down to less than almost 0% of the population will be affected over the next 5-6 years on that.
Correct. That's why we don't see it being an impact at all.
Yeah, and that's the concern, Dave. When you talk about people out there that are calling and reaching out to me, that's the information that's out there, and that's why we always say, hey, if you have a question about title, call Pioneer Title. If you have a question about real estate, call, the Chris Lofthus Group. We'll give you the information. We'll give you the facts, and sometimes we don't have the answers right away. And Tim will tell you this too. Sometimes it's like, I saw this 3.8% tax come across too, and I was like, holy cow. You start looking at, hey, maybe I should get in a different industry. But you look in general, Dave, it would affect you and your wife. If you saw that email, it would panic you if you had your house on the market.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason you put this show on, is we want to get good information. Tim Bundgard, who's the president and CEO, and Mike Ranieri, who's the vice president of Pioneer Title Company. Tim, you talked a little bit about the PTC index. Kind of give us an update on some of the activity with the new construction. Is it gaining traction or not? Start with the existing home sales. Use your indicator and share that great information.
And Dave, as we talked about the index itself, because it's been compiling information since 2008, and we've trended this out. And each month has its own its own characteristics, and so you really have to know what's going on in each month. It's interesting that the PTC index for the month of September actually flattened out. It actually dropped down, and if you looked at that, there would be those who would say, the party's over. We're starting to dip. If you were the typical media that they like to, always have the doubting Thomases and the glass is always half full, not half empty, not half full. But the fact of it is that this is a natural trend that we would see. We expect some of these to. We've been going on a very straight up trend for this whole year. We expected it to flatten out a little bit. One of the things that you also have to know is when you look at these indexes, they're based off the number of selling months that are of the actual days that are in. You come off of September. September is a very short month, and not only short in the number of days because you have holidays that are in there, but it's just the activity that goes on in September. September is kind of an awkward month. That nothing in the index surprised us. When it flattened out. One of the things that we were always encouraged about, and it's because there's the elements, and when you start going through it, building permits, they were at 348 the month before and 213. Okay, that's a drop off. The existing or new home sales was 188 and it was 158. Not substantial, but it flattened out. But you were coming off the previous month where the sales days were off the chart. We had and August can be August can be a very strong month in the real estate market. About it. And then you drop down the refinances. The refinances really do impact the index itself. The index takes into consideration the health of the buyers that are out there and the homeowners. And if you're able to refinance your house and lower your payment, that puts more money in your pocket. It also protects more property coming on into the market as a distressed property. It keeps that, quote, building the shadow inventory if it really is as big as they say it is. So when you go through that came down a little bit, but we knew that they were cycling through the refinance market. It's been red hot, and we want to continue to see that. Interest rates are still dropping, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's the new rate? It's like ridiculous.
I heard somebody, I don't know if it was true, but I heard somebody got 2.25 on a 15-year, which is it's insane. Anyway. Besides that, you look at in general, and you talk about, the marketplace, and you talk about appreciation. Well, and I don't know how Pioneer feels about this, but in my opinion, when I look at it, it was so low that this isn't 15% appreciation from last year to this year in Ada County. We're talking about a market correction, okay? We're talking about the banks were pushing the property so low that they were getting multiple offers. I mean, I saw some stuff that was listed 15, 18% below where they should have even listed it as an REO. So you look at the effect of the downward push on the market, and then now I think we saw that market correction, and I feel with inventory levels the way they are, and with all the activity around here, look at the commercial. Peter Oliver was under from Thornton Oliver Keller, and he says, you know what? Commercial always follows residential, and he says we see it every day. And he says you watch the momentum that's happening in Ada County, even Canyon County is starting to correct itself. I mean, I don't know what kind of activity we've seen out there.
No question about Canyon County probably went through the worst of any of the counties in the state of Idaho. Canyon County probably was hit as hard as any of them. A lot of it had to do with we had out-of-state investors that bought up a lot of property and then just flooded it back on when it wasn't working to their satisfaction. But they have noticeably cleaned up that marketplace. Those the prices are starting to rise. It's much more stable over there than it's ever been before, and we've seen a complete shift, really, just in the last 6 months for Canyon County. And as Canyon County goes, being the toughest market, to now being fairly stable, that really bodes well for the future.
Well, and also to touch on that, here's in my professional opinion what happened here. You have prices that dumped, and you had people that would typically could not afford to live in Ada County were making the decision to go from Canyon County into Ada County, so they could move into Meridian. It wasn't $250,000 for a house anymore; it was $165,000 for a house. And so now we're seeing that push. But now I'm starting to see. You talk about investment properties over the last 11 years. Of all the closed sales between 90 and 110,000, half of them took place last year. So you talk about the investor, that stuff's done in Ada County. You can't find anything decent. When we look, because we're still looking, we have people wanting to buy, but I think now we're seeing that push back towards Canyon County because you're seeing everything start to show up. Prices are rising, and just like in your neighborhood, Dave, we talk about it all the time in Paramount. They just busted through to phases 7 and 8, and we're off and running again.
Tim, let me ask you, because you have a unique perspective because of Pioneer Title. I don't know if global's the right word in the state of Idaho, but you go from the rolling hills of the Palouse to North Idaho, Eastern Idaho, soon to be in Blaine County. What's the snapshot of the state of Idaho? How healthy are we?
Idaho, I think, has proven itself to be able to snap back. We are also blessed that we happen to be in the Northwest, which is one of the strongest segments in the economy. But Idaho itself, there's no question that we, for better or worse, we got out and we cleaned up our markets. We processed the inventory that was out there. We stabilized ourselves versus maybe some of the other pockets in the United States, whether it be in Southern California or even the Sun Belt. But the fact of it is that when you look out and you look across the state of Idaho, because we're all the way through Idaho and Eastern Washington, every one of our markets is having record growth now. There's no question about it. To the point of we're seeing 40 to 50% more activity right now than we did this time last year.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't create the market. We service the market, but that just shows how resilient the state of Idaho is. And let's face it, to heal up, you got to have people coming into your marketplace, and people are coming to Idaho. No question.
There's no question about it. You talk about the publications we've been in. We talk about number one best place to live, or number 2, I think we were in Forbes magazine. Outside magazine put us best place to work, play, and live, or whatever, and you see that news. People are reading this, and I get phone calls. I lived in Seattle for a while, San Diego, went to Arizona State, and you start talking about my friends, and they start calling, they're going, man, you guys are all over the news. But you know, that ends up happening. People want to move out of big metropolitan areas. You know, I hear it. Now, I'm 43, but you start looking at the baby boomer push that we've seen this last year. I think it's going to keep coming. I think that people are, you know, we're watching people sell their big houses. Their kids are moving out. We're watching them buy a house in, say, Meridian, single level, or Eagle, or North Boise, and then they're buying a place in Palm Springs. It's just the natural flow. I think overall it just stopped for a while, and now we're back. It's great.
Mike, is your sense the same thing in terms of, you know, narrow that scope down to Ada County, and obviously hearing great things about Canyon County, but when you look at that Meridian, Eagle, I got to believe it's the sense there's growth going on out there.
No question. It doesn't take much to get in your car and drive out in that neck of the woods and see. When the market started to first recover at the end of first quarter last year, really recover, it was the first time that you actually saw wood flying, heard hammers and nails, and you could see it. The visual sights are out there, and Chris just touched on it a minute ago, and it sounds like in your own neck of the woods and where you reside, Dave.
Right.
There are plans for future development. These massive subdivisions are now back on track and moving forward, and it's great to see.
Yeah, you know, and I've talked to developers now. You talk to, you know, we talk about Peter Oliver, and he used to, you know, work with Brighton Corporation, and you talk about development. And, you know, I talked to developers 3-4 years ago, big heavy hitters. I'm not going to say any names that are in this area that I had the opportunity to meet when I started in real estate in here. And some of these guys, you know, a lot of these developers go broke, then they get back and they're broke. And a lot of them were the older ones, and they said, you know what? 2 years, 3 years ago, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm out. And now you're watching these guys buy all this property up again. And so, you know, we're going to see more development. We're going to see more people moving here. And I just love the flow. And you can just tell them, you drive around, the activity's buzzing, and the economy's doing great.
If you get a chance, go to your website right now, or I should say go to your computer and click on the site. It's ptcindex.com, or Pioneer Title Company, ptcindex.com. Take a look at that. We will continue on with the show. We'll take a time out, and I want to ask Chris, is this the time to list? Do we do it this time of year, or do we wait? What should we do? As you continue listening to the Real Estate Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty, Boise.